We could say that there is a common ground between the different conflicts which are the center of this exhibition. They are all related to the European continent and their citizens, while getting mostly ignored by the administrations and people in charge. Could you shortly explain which impact this lack of visibility or even censorship in supposedly democratic environments has on the perception of the Catalan conflict in Spain and also abroad?
Well, right now we're in an exhibition in Vienna about freedom of expression, and we're seeing right behind us an exhibit of pictures which was banned in the Arco Art Fair in Madrid some time ago, and it was banned because there's one of the pictures here behind me relates to Oriol Junqueras, who was the vice president of Catalonia. He was in charge, as the whole Catalan government, of organizing the referendum 2 years ago, and he's been in jail ever since. He has been sentenced to 13 years in jail for organizing a vote. So there we have two very troublesome bans. Ban on freedom of expression because this exhibit was not allowed, and in second place also the ban on the right to vote and to decide about the future. So yes, these things are happening. You have artists like Valtonyc, who was criminally charged for making a rap piece and criticizing the monarchy in Spain. You have other artists who have also been charged for similar things. You have in Catalonia the ban on the yellow laces, which so many people wear, asking for the release of political prisoners. You even have, during elections, an official ban on the expression itself, political prisoners. You can't say that. Televisions and the media cannot use that expression. Now, we think that's completely unacceptable. We think that things should be solved through dialogue and through the acceptance of the rule of democracy. That's the proper way to do things. That's the reasonable way to do things in the 21st century in Western Europe. We can't go back to the Dark Ages.
In fact, it's like one of the part of my second questions, what you explained. All these conflicts emerge within the EU or near it. Do you think that there is a reason for it? Is our democracy in danger? Why are these conflicts not getting the clear response that Catalans and many other European citizens would expect?
Well, because as we were commenting before in the debate, basically censorship is exercised by governments. We saw some figures which were stated before, and the European Commission is a government club, and governments tend to stick together. So if there's one government or two or three who act against freedom of speech or freedom of creation or any other right, other governments in the European Union will tend to support that government. This is something which must be corrected. We believe in Europe, we believe in a free Europe, we believe in the fundamental values of that Europe which emerged from catastrophe after the World War and decided and was determined that the fundamental values of Europe were dialogue, peace, human rights and democracy. Now we have to go back to the essentials of Europe. We must do that because that affects not only the Catalans or any other community in Europe, that affects all European citizens. So citizens and movements should also stick together in defense of something which is so important for Europe.
Some of the artworks here are addressing the Kurdish and the refugee conflict. What is the positioning of the Catalan government towards these issues?
Well, we are in favor of freedom everywhere, and what we ask for ourselves, we ask for other peoples of the world. And the Kurdish example is one of them, a very important one. We think that the way Turkey and other states are dealing with the Kurdish people and the Kurdish question is really unacceptable. And we ask for Kurdistan the same we ask for ourselves. We ask for dialogue, we ask for a democratic solution. Next week, we will present an initiative in the Catalan Parliament to support the cause of democracy and human rights in Kurdistan, because we have to stick by their side. We have to support peace, and we have to support talks, and we have to support human rights in Kurdistan, obviously, like anywhere else in the world.
Part of the exhibition is also the artwork Political Prisoners in Contemporary Spain. There's just been a hard verdict sending some of the people represented in this series of portraits up to 13 years to prison. Are they political prisoners, and why?
Yes, because they were arrested and kept for 2 years in preventive detention before the rulings came out because of political reasons, because of political ideas, and because of political action. Now, legitimate action from a legal government which is recognized even in the Spanish Constitution. So, yes, it's a political cause, and they're political prisoners, and they're political victims. The trial itself was a showcase for that. The Spanish government was active through the government prosecutor in the trials, who asked for jail sentences, which are very similar to the final sentences which were passed, and which were very harsh sentences. Oriol Junqueras, who was vice president of the Catalan government and who was responsible also for the vote which was taken 2 years ago, was sentenced to 13 years in jail. Now, that's political revenge. That's political punishment. And we have to stop that. This is not acceptable in the modern world. And this is not acceptable in the Europe we want, and the Europe in which we all believe. So we have to stop political causes for criminalizing perfectly legitimate political objectives, especially when these political objectives are peaceful and they're presented in a civic manner, and they're asking for peace, for talks, and for democracy. What we have to ask is for all politicians, the Spanish government included, to sit and talk, and to do this with common sense. Otherwise, it will be worse. It will be worse for Catalonia. It will be worse for Spain. It doesn't help the Spanish democracy itself. It deteriorates. It erodes democracy and human rights in Spain to see things like this happening nowadays.
So, in the last question, what do you think is going to happen next in Catalonia?
Well, I don't know. I don't deal with the future. I deal with politics. I can tell you what we want. And we want a process of talks between both sides, the Spanish government and the Catalan government. We want all the pressure from the extreme right and radical Spanish nationalists to cease. And we don't want the Spanish government to be influenced or dragged along by that pressure. We also want the international community to intervene and to put pressure on the Spanish government so that they agree to talk. Something as basic and something as important as talking, which is not happening right now. We're sitting at one side of the table, willing to talk. We're stretching out our hand, and on the other side, we see nobody. We see an empty chair of people in the Spanish government who don't want to talk, who refuse dialogue, and who have no proposal to counter our proposals. We do have proposals because we have ideas and we have political causes, but we don't see anybody on the other side willing to engage in something as simple and as necessary and as urgent as talks about the future.
Thank you very much.